Okay, let's talk about the Boardroom, right? Boardroom is a company that you guys started, you and KD, and it's a media company built around athletes, right? Is that correct?
Built around the business of sports and I think some parts of entertainment as well.
Okay. Talk about starting that, why that was an idea that you wanted to start and getting that up and running.
Yeah. Well, so when I ultimately started my own business with Kevin, it was investing and it was managing his business and managing his Nike business and helping him build out his foundation and everything that he's doing in PG County. And it was like building that family office at 35 Ventures. And we had a lot of deal flow and a lot of opportunity. And we were, working on TV and film projects. And what I realized was that I needed a way to storytell around what we were doing. First, that was my first thing, was like, we're in a climate now through social media that had become so present in everyone's life at the time, and the need to be able to storytell and position what you were doing in your business as much as just doing it.
What, this is 2016?
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. So I'm thinking in terms of KD 35 Ventures, this is like he's with the Warriors or he's about to go to the Warriors.
No, so when he went to the Warriors, that's around the time we started our own business. And that 16 to 18 was building out that family office of 35 Ventures and establishing that side of Kevin's business. And then in 2018, what I realized was that we didn't have that vehicle to really storytell around. And I knew from investing that just starting a media business was going to get laughed at. Like, what was the point of us to try to replicate a model that people in Silicon Valley were saying was broken? You weren't just going to invest in somebody because of an audience or eyeballs or metrics. You had to build a business with a purpose and something different. And, again, like, I'm sure you guys, as you've built your business, knew the same thing. Like, I'm not going to do that model. That was 15 years ago. And what you guys have done is a new model that has been created. And for me, I was trying to figure out what it was that made Kevin and I different. If I could figure that out, then I think that would allow us to start something that at least would embody us. And then that would have to be authentic because it's us. And where that went, I didn't know. And we were trying to figure it out, and we were talking a bit about it. And founders of companies were really taking to us in our strategy as a strategic investor, like how we work. They were really taking to our style. And I realized that the more I could do work for these companies, the more we were going to get great deal flow and to really prove ourselves as an investor. So to have that vehicle would also benefit that side of our business. So I still was sitting on it. And then I went to a dinner at Peter Guber's house, or a lunch during NBA All-Star Weekend. And I don't know if this happens to you guys, maybe during your conference when you had 500,000 people in the crowd.
Estimated.
Where you look at yourself and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? And I'm a fan of this whole world that I live in, that I work in. I'm still a fan of all of it on another level. So I'm at Peter Guber's house, and Pat Riley's sitting on one side of me, and Jack Dorsey's on one side of me, and this NBA owner. And I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? This is my life's dream. And it was because of basketball. It's how I saw it. It was because Kevin Durant believed in me and trusted in me. And these rooms that he was able to walk into because of how great he was at the game of basketball, that as a kid, if I had known that the sports world looked like that there was a way in like that, I would have been like, whoosh, from day one. So I said, let me create a brand that really represents that there's a world around sports and entertainment where it all makes sense, where people in the boardroom are wearing sweats, where everyone's different colors, different genders. And even though it might not be the richest people in the room, they're making a lot of the decisions, and they're deciding what's fresh, and they're influential, and they can dictate where money moves. And that was what I wanted the brand to represent, where all that intersected a bit, and just to become a storyteller and an amplifier of other great people and other great successes, and to be a voice a bit of all of the action that was happening in this world, and to really sit there and be complimentary. And as the business has grown, that's still at the core of it.
So it's immediate. So you see a lot of guys in that era that's like, so LeBron does Spring Hill, right, with Mav, and then KD works with you, and you guys have the Boardroom, which is essentially you produce content, right? Throw events, produce content. You're shaping the narrative, as you just kind of said. How important was that? Do you see this new age of athletes kind of, because athletes has always complained about narratives. They never got depicted correctly from reporters. They've never really, liked how people in the news have written about them. There's always been conflicts, but now we're seeing that they're actually on the other side of it and controlling the narrative in the media. So, talk about the dynamic that you see from the change in athletes complaining about media to them actually taking control and owning a piece of media.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think because in sports, as much as any part of society, the media creating a storyline actually has such real life implications. And in the real world now, sadly, we're seeing it on the highest level, but this has been happening in sports for a while. And I think during Kevin's free agency, when we set up that whole scene in the Hamptons, it really hit me of like, wait, like because I remember Kevin said to me once, like, man, this shit ain't world news or something. And I'm like, no, I think it is, bro. I think this is world news. Like, this is what it's come to. So, the idea that an athlete not just can create and command their own narrative, but can build an entire ecosystem where an entire narrative can be created and an athlete can drive it, but an athlete can find other creators and other athletes and other partners and other stories that they want to tell and that they can control. But I look at it as a bigger thing than that, because I look at these athletes now as just some of the like most sound young entrepreneurs. Not everybody, but a lot of athletes are exposed early to the conversation of business. Like my daughter's, I got a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. If my 14-year-old was an incredible, potentially professional athlete, I'd be talking to her about business and life right now. I'd have to be preparing her for what some of these conversations mean that people are having with her and what some people want from her when they talk to her. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden now at 14 years old, she'd be like really way ahead of the curve in terms of how to approach business and life and people. Because that's not what you're telling your 14-year-old. You're teaching them certain things. But now these kids are 17, 18 years old, and they're already thinking about things that I just never thought about at that point in my life, or maybe even understood or had that information. So I think what you're seeing is this incredible trend of athlete moguls, like potential moguls. They're not all moguls, but that's where their minds are at. And with that, they can control the narrative.
It's interesting. The conversation that you have with your daughter, there's a trust that's there, obviously, as a father. The conversation with KD, I'm interested because we see a lot of, pretty much everybody has an agent, but rarely do we see clients create businesses with their agent. So what was that relationship like for him to say, you know what, this is something that I want to do with you? How long did it take for you to build that rapport and to get to the point where it's like, yeah, this is not my agent. This is also my business partner.
Yeah. I guess just in business time, 4 years, 2012 to around 2015, actually. So 3 years. But I had met Kevin his rookie year through EYL, who I was managing at the time, and they're both from the DMV. So I think it was this level of trust in our relationship that we had. But it was also a bit of the climate of, of the business. Like what LeBron had started to build and create was becoming in a lot of ways like the North Star, and then what I think Kevin and I both grew up around watching, like these hip hop labels of the 90s build these economies where Bad Boy at the center, and it's vodka, magazines, parties, records, clothing. And that was something that was really aspirational. I think that was something, that was at the core of a lot of that era of athletes thinking about their business. And then, in a lot of ways being able to say, all right, well, I can control all of this. Like I sit at the center of this economy, and there's ways to build business all around it. And I think then the natural evolution was that because of the trust we had as his agent and someone that I knew for a while, there was a confidence that that we could do something together.